The topic which we would like to discuss, because the time duration given by the OMIAT organization was only half an hour time, and special appreciation and thanks to the entire organization who is completely involved in helping us, supporting us in pedagogies of education. On behalf of Wisdom Park International School, I owe a sincere thanks and gratitude to each and everybody who is involved in this organization. I am Anand Calson. I'm an educator for 12 years. I'm an educator, I'm a traveler in education. Especially, I do travel on areas called uh, special education, because I feel it is a very delicate topic which all the teachers and an educators in the school or an academician should understand what is the specific learning disabilities or disorders in the class. Generally, when we talk about is my voice audible? Just give me a clarity. Is my voice audible? Is my presentation visible?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Thank you. Thank you. The topic which we are into is called learning disability or disorder. Generally, when we being an educator in the school or being a teacher in the school, a common thought of a parent or anybody, என் குழந்தை சரியா படிக்க மாட்டேங்கிறான் சார், my child is not studying well. I don't understand what is called child doesn't read, a child doesn't write, child doesn't understand. You know, whatever we say, the child is unable to understand, unable to read, unable to write. These all things comes under the category of LD, but until or unless we understand or recognize whether it is learning disability or disorder. So as teachers or educators, we need to know this very delicate topic where no one touches this LD, especially in the school programs. When we talk about learning disabilities, learning disability learning disability or learning disorder. Disorder is a term used by medical community people. Disability is a word, I mean specific learning disability is a word is used by educators, especially in schools. And these are the problem which it is a neurological or it is a psychological problem which can be treated with certain criteria. So that is this is only called learning disability. When a child faces difficulty in reading, child faces difficulty in understanding the concept, child faces difficulty in receiving the information, processing the information, or analyzing the information or storing information inside the school campus within the classroom within four walls, that is called a learning disability. So as everybody uh, note as everybody note that, you know, we generally have issues. We generally have issues like, 1 minute sir, I will make the screen little bigger. Especially in the classroom where this is a common difficulty, when the parent comes and explains that the child is not able to understand whatever I say, not able to follow me whatever I say, even I teach them two times or three times or four times, the child is unable to receive the information, doesn't know even to store the information in the mind. When a child facing difficulty to learn quickly, so this all comes under the category of learning disability. So slowly I will be taking through. I want you all people to just, you know, just listen to the topic, understand the topic, because you have to connect this with the classroom experiences. Because whatever I share to you, which we have already experimented in our school, and being an educator as or teachers, you also should understand what is this learning disabilities is all about. When we talk about LD, it is also kind of group of disorders that affects a broad range of academic and functional skills. We talk about two areas here. One is called academic skills and functional skills. This, it can be any curriculum. This the education is divided into two areas. One area is called scholastic area. The other one is called co-scholastic area. We call it as academics or non-academic skills. But the word skills are totally different. When you have hands-on experience, it comes under the category of skills. Now, what is the difference between this academic and functional skills? This comes under the umbrella term. Academics, which is connected with their pen and paper test examination, which is connected with the periodic assessments, which is connected with frequently asked questions, which is connected with questions asked or a quiz competition in the classroom, or it can be a debate, or that all comes under the category of academic skills where that is assessed and a certain score is given to the children. But when it comes to functional skills are nothing but a kind of skills which is very important skills for a particular student. For example, the child must read in his or her life. Child should need to read, child needs to understand, child needs to listen carefully, child should be matured enough to understand the concept, child should even know about life skills. These are all called functional skills, which it includes with the ability of speaking, listening, reading, writing, spelling, and reasoning out. This is all very common problems. Most of the time, a parent comes to the school, meets the class teacher and says the child is unable to speak, sir. The child is not even conversing in English properly. It cannot be only in English, it can be any language. It can be even Urdu, it can be even Tamil. The child is unable to pronounce the word, unable to use the word properly, or unable to listen the words properly, listen to the instruction properly, or the child is not able to read the word properly, not even able to blend the word properly, and the child not able to write properly. All these things comes under the category of learning disability. So these are all a group of disorders that affects the children in the classroom in the present situation. But as teachers, we take it very light. So I request all of you to take it very seriously on this topic called learning disability or disorder. But how it gets, what are the causes of this learning disability, how it happens? Generally, is it happening to everybody, or is this happens to only certain group of people? There are certain three causes where it happens only to those people. But when, as an educator or a teacher, when you do an assessment in the classroom, what do you mean by assessment? When you identify or see the child in the classroom, you have to see and check on three certain areas. The first one is all about heredity. It may also run from the family, or the father may have a problem of learning disability, a problem may have a problem of reading problem, or the parent may have a problem of writing, or the parent may have a problem of understanding the concept. So that might be a kind of heredity. Uh, and moreover, no, this is a disorder where it can be treated with certain therapy interventions or with some sort of behavior interventions. For example, a child is unable to write properly, we give what we do generally. When a child is unable to write well in the classroom, generally what we do in the classroom, we make the child to, we call the parent, we say to the parent, the child is not writing properly, so you have to bring a cursive handwriting note. So that generally that is the statement we give it to the children, we give it to the parent. And when these people come with handwriting note, you teach A, it should be like that, or B should be like that, or the stroke should be taught to the children. Now, over a period of time, after a continuous practice, this disorder can be treated. So that is only called disorder or a disability, especially on the learning areas. The next cause is all about the pregnancy. During the pregnancy time, it can be prenatal or postnatal or pre-pregnancy, before birth or after birth. If there is any issues, so that also might cause lead to learning disability. So The first one is on heredity, the second one is pregnancy, and the third one is after birth, accidents after birth. So it might can be caused with head injuries, or it can be with baby who born in 7 months or 6 months, or the child is facing difficulty, having an issue like malnutrition, or is there any toxic exposures in common, you can call it as externally which has affected the child. So these are all three causes which affect the children, which will lead to learning disability. So when it comes to learning disability, we are talking about learning disability. Sir, everything is like a medical term. What are those called, sir? That is nothing. Learning disability or a disorder are of four types. I'm talking about reading. I'm talking about writing. Uh, I'm talking about physical anomalies, or I'm talking about mathematics. So we call it as disorder of reading, disorders of mathematics, disorder of writing expressions, and a learning disorder not otherwise specified. So these are all four areas that as teachers and educators that we have to understand. What is this called reading, sir? What is this called reading? What is called mathematics? What is called writing? How it will affect the children? Is it affecting the children nowadays? Yes, absolutely. It affecting the children a lot. Nowadays, the child faces difficulty in identifying the word, identifying the letter to teach the generally in India in the common schools. How do we teach LKG students? How do we teach LKG students? We teach. We start from ABCD. Whenever you see a LKG child, okay, what is the first question you ask with the child? You call the child, and you call and you ask the child, what is your name? Can you tell me your name? Yes. Your name is this? Wonderful. Where do you study? Yeah. You study here? Okay. What did you study? Uncle, I studied ABCD. Can you say something? Can you say ABCD for me? When a child says ABCD, you feel happy. So what am I trying to tell is the four major skills called listening, speaking, reading, writing. It doesn't happen with listening, speaking, reading, writing. We don't teach them sounds first, we teach them writing first. So these are all area where the child is unable to grab it easily, especially the child who is facing difficulty in learning. The child who is having difficulty in learning, the child will not able to write properly, not able to read properly, not able to do calculation properly, because the skills are not simultaneously followed. It is not followed according to the way to be followed. See, the first skill should be listening, but we start writing. Now, and all of you, do you understand why we are unable to converse in English properly? The reason is not I studied in Tamil medium or I studied in Urdu medium. It's all because I had a difficulty in pronouncing the word. So you and me, I mean, everybody would have had this learning disorders. This is very common in children. That is why we are into this topic. So when we, in an umbrella term of disorders, this classification of learning disability comes under the category called a common types of learning disability called dyslexia. Dyslexia is a common disability. Find 15 is to 30. In among 15 students, in among 30 students, 15 students will have this kind of learning disability or disorder called dyslexia, which means the child may or shall face difficulty in writing. The child may face difficulty in reading. The child may face difficulty in spelling the word. Like, so this all these area comes under the category called dyslexia. As an educator, I mean, after this program, maybe on Monday or Tuesday, when you go to the class, or when you find somebody is unable to read, unable to write, or unable to spell, you have to chart them with the category called learning disability. But again, I want to emphasize a word, this can be treated with certain criteria. with certain criteria, with certain therapy interventions, with remedial teaching. We call it as remedial teaching. What do you mean by remedial teaching? We say remedial teaching. We talk about remedial teaching. This learning disability children, whoever is having a learning disability, this remedial teaching will definitely work out. What do you mean by remedial teaching? Remedial teaching means reinforcement teaching and reteaching. Teach again, reinforce again, emphasize the same word again and again, again and again, again and again. These are the certain criteria to come out of the problem. So the first one is all about dyslexia, which means difficulty in writing, reading and spelling, and is very common. And the second one is dyscalculia. என்ன சொன்னாலும் படிக்கவே மாட்டேங்கிறான் சார். I don't know. Why is he not at all studying? Maths மட்டும் வர மாட்டேங்குது சார். The maths alone is unable to do. He's very poor in calculation. He's speaking well, he's reading well, he's writing well. But when we talk about numbers, sir, that is our future, sir. But nobody understand number. Children face the one who faces difficulty in mathematics, in calculations, in computation problems, or any literacy problems which is connected with numbers. The child has difficulty. Instead of writing 6, the child write a difficulty of writing 6. The child is unable to write the number. Child will face lose interest in, especially on numbers. So that is the reason the children go to science group instead of taking maths. Till 10th standard, the child would have studied maths very well, but with greater difficulty, with greater difficulty. So when we identify these kind of children when very engaged, and as teachers, as educators, it is easy for us. The next one is all about dysgraphia. The third one is dysgraphia, the child who faces difficulty in writing, especially difficulty in writing the spelling and the composition, especially when in an LKG or UKG, the child should need to identify a word or spell a word, or the child is to blend the word. When you know how to blend a word, a child can read a sentence, but the child will face difficulty in spellings, especially identifying the word. Instead of B, the child will say D. And I don't want to go in detail since it is very often our time. The third point is all about dysgraphia. The child faces difficulty in writing, spelling, and composition, especially on the sentence structure. The fourth one is all about dyspraxia. The child who has problems with manual dexterity and coordination, which means the child may have a problem with the psychomotor domain, which means fine motor skills or gross motor skills. What do you mean by fine motor skills? The child is unable to pick the pencil properly, the child is unable to hold it. So that is connected something with physical ailments. The child may face difficulty in that. Through that, the child may lose in learning. So that is affecting, and it causes the learning disability. So you lot of various terms. For now, we have to only focus on dyslexia, dyscalculia, dysgraphia, dyspraxia, and of course there is another one called dysphasia or aphasia. It's called language disorders. The child face difficulty in articulation disorder, especially when a child doesn't listen at home speaking. The child has a problem in speaking. For example, instead of the word, the child may use the word. How are you, sir? Yeah, good morning, sir. The child use this word kind of articulation where the child touches child touches the tongue with the alveolar and speaks. And so there are certain children who speaks with the teeth ridges. Sir, yes, sir. How are you, sir? So when a child has a difficulty in producing the speech sounds, this comes under the category of the dysphasia, or when a child is able to read the word but unable to put it as a sentence when a question is asked. When a question is asked, the child will be able to write everything in the paper when a question is asked. In the examination, nalla mark edukaran. So he's scoring very good marks in all the subjects, but unable to speak, unable to speak continuously, but he's able to write everything. When I say something, he listens to me and he writes, but he is unable to speak, when it is in a spoken form, or when a question is asked to a child, the child is unable to understand the question. You will ask, what did you have in the morning? The child understands in a different way and says that I don't like to eat idli, but I'm forced to eat idli. The child will have a difficulty in pursuing the word, pursuing the information, understanding the information, comprehending the information, but gives a different answer or a solution for the question. So it comes under the category of dyspraxia. I hope I'm touching those areas where you people understand it. So when it comes to a detailed definition of dyslexia, it is already I have explained you when we talk about it in an umbrella term, it call it as a reading disability, which involves in phonetic mapping, or the child who suffers in matching various orthographic representation on the specific sounds. Because when we talk about sounds, it is 44. When we say apple, we pronounce it as apple. When we say aeroplane, it's aeroplane. The sound of a and a is totally different. And with the sounds of combination of vowels and the consonant, the child will face difficulty especially pursuing the word in the brain, because as I told you, it's a psychological problem where the child is not able to listen, or not able to understand and convert that. So the child faces difficulty in reading too, when a child is asked to read a particular word. So in a nutshell, dyslexia means a reading disability which involves difficulty in reading. When we talk about dysgraphia, this is very common among children, as I explained to you. And this comes under the general term called physical writing, and which is very connected with visual motor integration of fine motor skills. I mean, when something is written on the board, the child unable to see the word, copy the word, and write the word, whatever is there in the board. Even though you change the font size, even though you change the size of the letter on the board, the child is not able to perceive the information, because the reason is when the child see a word, it is in a reverted image, it is an inverted image, and this inverted image is converted as an image in the eye, and the child is written. So, but this process, the child will have this problem and a difficulty in this image problem. So the child is unable to write. The child doesn't have an interest of writing properly. So what we do is we give a lot of therapy interventions, like we give holders for the children, we give pen holders, we give pencil holders, because it is connected with their hand movements too. So when you find any child having difficulty in writing, you have to again emphasize the child and motivate the child and encourage the child to write properly. And moreover, you shouldn't only tell, you have to give a lot of exercises for the child to write. And you have to teach the child to write, how to have a stroke, why should be like this, why s should be like this. This kind of reteaching again and again, the children will come out of the problem. And everybody of us would have faced this problem in grade 1 and grade 2. Everybody. So when a teacher, it is based on the teacher. When a teacher gives special attention and care in writing, definitely our handwriting would have been changed, enhanced. There are certain schools they follow cursive handwriting. Then certain schools they follow script handwriting. In certain schools they don't follow any sort of writing. You can write it. There are certain schools they follow joining and you have to join and write. So these are all activities actually. Cursive handwriting is an activity. Joining handwriting is an activity for a child who's involved in writing without any pause. So that comes under the category of dysgraphia. In an umbrella term, we call it this dysgraphia as a writing disability. The third one is dyscalculia. The child faces difficulty in mathematics. The child will say, ma'am, I understood. I understood everything, ma'am. The teacher will ask, this is the common question. The teacher will ask, the question called, did you understand? Did you understand the sum? Children, everybody will raise their hand and say, yes, ma'am, I understood, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Wasn't very nice, ma'am. I understood this sum, ma'am. I'm going to do, children, I'm going to give you homework. When a child is given homework, the child will go home, sit, and stares at the note for half an hour. The child will not even remember anything. It's not about remembering the concept. The child will face difficulty in doing the sum, but something is there in the mind to do a sum, but the child is unable to do that. Child, whatever it works out, the child will make uh, error in mathematics, and this is called dyscalculia. And again, I'm telling you, and again, I'm emphasizing you, this is not a disease. This can be treated with certain criteria. And what are those criteria? I will tell you in the last slides. So called, the third one is called dyscalculia. So uh, how are we going to identify and do an assessment procedure? Now, being a teacher, like you need to really understand how to identify. Sir, நீங்க இதெல்லாம் சொல்லிட்டீங்க சார். You told everything. So you spoke about learning disability. You told about different types of learning disability. Correct, sir. I'm seeing everybody. But how am I going to identify? My dear teachers and educator, it is hard for you to identify the child. But being a teacher being a teacher in the classroom, minimum of 5 to 6 hours, you can identify on certain areas. I'm going to give you clues. The point number one is learning disability or a disorder is not curable, but it can be treated. It is not curable. It will be there all the time. It will be there all the time, but it is not curable. That's the first point. The second point is all about you have to alter the functional gaps. I mean, when I talk about remedial teaching, you have to find out whether the child is facing any kind of difficulty in terms of hearing, in terms of vision, in terms of physical movements, or in terms of uh, uh, faces difficulty whenever a question is asked, or facing difficulty in understanding. You have to identify that, record that. Record one, you have to do it. The child is facing this difficulty. And you have to give three type of questions for the child, whether the child able to do it with easy questions, the child able to go with mediocre questions, or the child is able to do with the difficult questions. You have to check with that probability, and you can identify the child, and you cannot do an assessment criteria. First thing, the first layer is you have to identify, yeah, correct, the child is having a problem. Okay. So on a certain areas, like you have to assess, like the child has a difficulty in health, the child has a difficulty in vision, child has a difficulty in hearing, the child has a difficulty with the social emotional status. For example, when a question is asked, immediately the child cries a lot. When you say, beta, don't worry, I'm here for you, I will teach you. But still the child will be emotionally weak because of the family issues. Or when a question is asked, the child answers in a different way. Or the academic performance of the child will be very low. Or the child may not speak English well, or may not speak Urdu well, or may not speak their own mother tongue well. Or the child faces difficulty in motor abilities. When we do an identification on those areas, you have to call the parent, inform the parent something is wrong with the child. The child is facing some sort of difficulty. Don't use this word called disability to the parent. Parent will be offended. You say the child is facing difficulty in learning. So kindly, uh, kindly do an assessment with a special educator or an educational psychologist. When you do that, the educational psychologist or a clinical psychologist or a special educator will help you, guide you, support you. What are the areas to be focused? If a child is having a problem called visually handicapped, or a problem of vision, the child is having a problem of vision. There is one boy in my school where he had a vision problem. The teacher identified brought to my notice, and we told, call the parent, you have to inform that the child should wear a spectacle. When a parent said, like, thank you very much for identifying, sir. The child was wearing a spectacle, and they came to school and found he was sitting in the first row and he was unable to write. When I inquired with the child says that I couldn't see even I'm sitting in front of the board. And I called the parent and said, there is a problem with vision, sir. There's something wrong with the vision. You go do an assessment for the child. So when you notice these kind of delicate issue, kindly inform the parent. So as teachers, you have to look into health, look into vision, look into hearing, look into social and economical status, general intelligences, motor ability, academic performance, and communicative status. These are all areas that you need to do an assessment. When it comes to, we are on the final slides, sir. We are on the final slides. I'm taking 5 or 6 minutes extra. I'm sorry for that. I'm on the last slide. Sir, how am I going to do? Sir, I'm a preschool teacher. What am I supposed to do, sir? What am I supposed to do? How can I, where to focus, sir? You told most of the children will have this problem, will faces this issue. But now, how am I going to do this, sir? There are certain areas that you need to focus on, especially on the preschoolers. I mean, we call it as balwadikas or toddlers or kindergartens. These three people, you have to focus on only two areas called language development. Language development means listening and speaking, not on reading and writing. No two skills to be implemented. Only two skills you have to emphasize called listening. That is a first priority based skill, and speaking. These two skills, when you focus on the particular child, for example, start with syllabification. You teach them what is called monosyllable. You teach them what is called disyllable. Do you understand what is called monosyllable and disyllable? The word which has one word pronunciation. For example, there is a word called school is monosyllable. Intervention, inter and vention. There are two syllables in that called disyllable. So we have monosyllable, disyllable, trisyllable. Two-letter words, three-letter words, four-letter words, five-letter words, a word, sentence, and a sentence structure. So this focus can be given for toddlers, balvadikas, and kindergarten, focusing particularly on speaking, as well as you can focus only on uh, listening. So these are all two areas. And development of fine motor skills and visual motor skills, you have to have an eye on the children, whether the child is having any difficulty, where a child is developing on fine motor and gross motor skills. There are two skills that the child of preschool should be done, called fine motor and gross motor. Fine motor skills and gross motor skills are very important. If the child is facing difficulty in holding a pencil, child is facing difficulty in picking any pen or picking any paper, the child is facing difficulty on the motor activity, or the child is unable to copy any copy from the board, or child is not able to follow the picture. All these things you need to assess, and you need to keep giving interventions only on those areas, even though the child is poor in all the areas. One area is called language development, the other area called fine motor skills, as well as visual motor skills. When it comes to intervention at primary schools, what are the interventions you need to do is all called 3 R's. You need to focus on 3 R's called reading, writing, and arithmetic. This 3 R's is more than enough for the child who is in the primary school. I'm talking about grade 1 to grade 5. Grade 1 to 5, you can only focus on very basic skills called reading, writing, and arithmetic. Reading, you do an assessment. The child is unable to read well. Give a special teaching for the child, reteaching for the child in teaching how to pronounce the word, how to read the word, how to use the word in a sentence. Writing, how a word to be written, how legible to be written, how a sentence to be written. Arithmetic, teach only basic operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Focus only on these areas. And moreover, the last one is all about you make the children to think. This is very important intervention program that you have to give it to learning disability children. Like you have to make the children to apply the cognitive development. What do you mean by cognitive development? Knowledge, understanding, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. It comes under the category of Bloom's taxonomy. This cognitive area, you need to touch that cognitive area, the one who faces difficulty in learning disability or disorder. When it comes to middle school, the foundation will be your focus. The child is facing learning disabilities, so facing difficulty in reading, writing, or calculations. You can focus only when we give foundation in mathematics, foundation in science, and the social sciences. When generally, middle school comes under the category of grade 6, grade 7, and grade 8. Whenever the child faces difficulty in memorizing the concepts. See, one thing you have to understand as teachers, when we give an intervention programs for the children, memorizing differs from people to people. We say, understand the concept and read. Understand it, understand the concept, read it to the core. But what do you mean by understanding? புரிஞ்சு படி. We say that. You understand the concept and read. Don't muck up. Don't memorize it. But eventually, there is no word called understanding. The child who is still 12th standard will never understand. But there are different strategy for memorizing. That all comes under the category of memorizing only, but different strategy. There are certain children in my school where they read first time, when they read second time, when they read third time, when they read fourth time, when they read seventh time, they understand partially. This is one type of reading. There is another child who memorize, reads, tells, understand. This is second type. The third one is there are certain children who underline the word and read. Underline the word and read. Doesn't understand the word. They don't want to understand. They really want to uh, take that words, take that words in their mind. Especially on the learning disability who's facing difficulty, will have this problem in memorizing. There is fourth type of child who reads everything with story. It's like a story. Paragraph, read like a story. Mathematics, read like a story. Science, read like a story. So the child who is facing difficulty, especially on learning, you have to give a therapy interventions or behavior interventions on areas of memorizing or retrieving or linking the information. Finally, finally, with the last slide, we are moving on to the last slide with secondary school. The child should be encouraged. The child should be motivated. A child should be given a lot of opportunities, especially grade 8 to grade 10. And talking about learning disability to the child it should be completely avoided. Even though the child faces difficulty in writing, the child has a chronological age to understand. That is how we find out where an intelligent quotient. We say mental age by chronological age into 100. This is the calculation. The child who is in grade 8 to grade 10, I mean, grade 8 means 5 plus 8 might be 13 years. It's a teenagers, starts from 13. All these children, they understand whatever we say. If the child is not able to understand for the first time, at least the child will be able to understand second time or third time, irrespective of any board. It can be metric board or a state board or ICSE board or IGSE board or a CBSE board. You have to really work on motivating the child, encouraging the child, and creating a self-esteem to the child so that the child will not be timid enough in not attempting that. The last one is all about vocational opportunities. My dear teacher, this is very important. When you find a child is very poor, sir, எதுக்குமே பயன்பட மாட்டான் sir. He is not able to, he is not fit. They say this word, this is a common word the teacher use in the classroom. You are not fit for nothing, man. You are not fit. I told you something to do, you have done something. But when you tell this word to the child will be offended. So you have to alternate the solution with vocational opportunities to be given, arts to be given to the child, sports to be given to the child, or any other activities you need to connect with the child so that the child will feel happy and overcome this learning disability. So these are all areas which in half an hour, I could help you out and tell you But this is a very delicate and a very big topic. Provided if OMIAT is again giving an opportunity, we can detailedly discuss on this learning disability, especially in the classroom. We call it as specific learning disability. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you, OMIAT organization. It's wonderful getting connected with all of you. Thank you, sir. Over to you.
Thank you, sir. We are very thankful to Mr. Anand Calson, sir, from Wisdom Park International School. Wisdom Park is having wisdom full of people, and we have been listening to vice principal of Wisdom Park. So, a lot of wisdom he has given about the specific learning disabilities in the classroom. And early morning, when getting up from the bed itself is difficult, sir is now in full suit and all, and with a smiling face and throughout the session. So that shows the dedication he has for education. So we are thankful to him. And really, the disabilities are many. Learning disabilities, a lot of problems they are giving, and it is a lot of problem in receiving, processing, and analyzing, and storing information in mind. And all these things are there. So sir has explained everything. We are thankful to him. We may listen more from him in future also. So we are thankful to the principal and the management of Wisdom Park also, international school, who has given us this opportunity of listening. That's why the viewership also has increased. Nearly 70 we will be having, and now it has crossed more than 100 at the peak of the hour. So that shows the interest shown by the teachers also. So tomorrow also, again, we will be listening speakers from Wisdom Park. So let us wait and see for tomorrow. Again, we will join tomorrow, inshallah. Subhanallah wa bihamdi, subhanakallahumma bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. With this, the program ends.